Here's my unbiased opinion on the Viltrox 15mm f1.7 lens. I ordered and purchased this lens myself with my own money. Nobody gave it to me. Nobody asked me to do a review on it one way or the other. I've used the Viltrox 15mm lens now for a few weeks, going out and shooting various different things so I could give it a full test under many different circumstances. I shot everything in RAW, that's all I shoot, and I edited everything in Apple's Photomator program. So what do I think about it? If you have an APS-C camera and you want a very nice, sharp, lightweight, basically 24mm equivalent full-frame lens at a great price, this is it. It gives you a full-frame equivalent of 22.5mm, very close to 24, and at f1.7. It does have a little bit of vignetting around the edges. When you're editing, if you add a little bit of extra contrast, it shows up a little bit more. But most of that you can crop out. Most of the time I'm cropping my images anyway, so when you crop in a little bit, it goes all away. Not a big problem. For me, this 24mm equivalent range is something that I've used off and on for years and years. For example, walking around town, to have a lightweight camera like the Sony a6700 and this Viltrox 15mm lens on it, it's so small and light, you barely even notice it's in your hands. You can easily stand in front of a building or business and shoot all kinds of street photography, but then you could also walk up closer to things and shoot them as well and get a nice blurred background. And because it's an f1.7 lens, you can also go into restaurants or places indoors and get very nice indoor shots as well. So this zoom range is extremely versatile. That's one of my favorite zooms to carry with me if I'm going on a trip, walking around downtown, or just about anywhere. So now to have this lens range on my APS-C small lightweight Sony a6700 camera, this is great. I was able to shoot some video, so you can see that it can shoot video. This was all wide shots. So let's go look at some photos that I shot using the Viltrox 15mm 1.7 lens to give you an example of what you can expect. This is all shot using the Sony a6700, shot in RAW, and I'll also show you some of the video clips as well. Okay, this is the very first photo that I shot when I took the lens out of the box, put it on the camera, sitting in my studio. And then we moved on to this second lens photo. I actually had the Viltrox 75mm 1.2 lens sitting on my desk, so this was a great example to show you right away my very second shot that I did of what the background bokeh blur can look like. Now, over to the right side of the screen, you'll be able to see the shooting information. You can see it was shot with the Sony 6700 camera. Everything was edited in the Apple Photomator program, and you can see the ISO, the shutter speed, aperture, and then it was, of course, shot with the Viltrox 15mm lens. This shot here, ISO 3200, I'm amazed that I even was able to get something out of this. This is edited in the Photomator program. I added a little bit of denoising into this. This was almost completely pitch black when I shot that. Now, I'm doing these photos in the order that I shot them over multiple days, over a few weeks. Little shopping center. This was a tropic hideaway RV resort down the road from where we live. And they must have some alligators in here. But the reason I'm going to be shooting some of these close-up shots like this, because this is where it really brings out the background bokeh blur. See how smooth, creamy the background could be. This is like what you would get if you were shooting with a full-frame camera with a 24mm 2.8 lens, but you can get the same look on a crop sensor camera like the Sony a6700 with a 1.7 f-stop lens. This is a local theater. It's actually a gigantic amusement park that's not too far from us. And we walked over there and walked around this whole entire area, so you're going to see a lot of this coming up. This was a brick wall. I wanted to see, is it keeping the line straight? This looks just fine to me. Decent image. This is another close-up. They have a theater there, so they had all kinds of things going on coming up through Christmas. This is another wide shot. This place is called OA. It's like going to Disneyland or another type of amusement park. And you can see a little bit of the vignetting that this lens does produce on the corners. And we'll see quite a bit more of that throughout the images. This was a wall mural I shot walking around. You see a little bit more of the corner edging vignetting coming in. And here was a rope. I shot a close-up of this, moved in close once again to show what kind of background bokeh blur you'd be able to get with this lens. This was at f1.7. This was at ISO 50. I dropped the ISO down to 50 because it was very bright out, so I could shoot at f1.7. I'm going to see quite a few buildings. All these buildings and shopping stores are all within the OA area of this amusement park. There's a lot of restaurants, and then you can go into the amusement park area. Another building area, and this shows what it looks like in the off-season here. We were literally the only people walking around in this whole entire park. It was like a ghost town, but great for shooting. Nobody bothered us. Here's a menu of restaurant bar. You can see how the lens tapers off into the bokeh soft focus range from the center there. And here's a real good example. When you get in close, you get this super creamy bokeh background. A Starbucks coffee shop that they have there. And this is just standing in the doorway, shooting in a beach-themed store that sells all kind of beach supplies. And this was at a shutter speed of 1/90th of a second. And here I set the camera down on the ground to get this shot. You can see the nice bokeh background blur that's producing. And this was a close-up of some kind of a plant. I had to actually reach over a garden rail and shoot this with one hand, and I was able to grab it. And this is a little bit wider shot of that same plant from another angle. You can still see some nice, soft, blurred bokeh blur in the background. And it's a nice and sharp image with great colors. And this is another example to show you this creamy background, just focusing on this little scratch mark on this chair here. Great example to show this. I'm at a shutter speed of 0.02 of a second, ISO 50, with the aperture of f1.7. Now here's a wide shot. I had to go all the way to 2.8 because it was so bright out I couldn't shoot at 1.7 on some of these shots. Another wide angle here. They have an arcade here. Now I'm going to walk over to these tables and chairs, get this type of shot. Now this is back at f1.7. I'm at 0.02 of a second. Nice contrast, nicely detailed image. I will say when I edit in Photomator, I do have to add quite a bit of extra contrast to really bring out the type of look that I like. And through these gates right here, they call it Tropic Falls. This is the amusement park. When it's open, you would go in there. They have roller coaster rides, all kinds of rides. It's a big, gigantic amusement park. They actually have a huge waterfall area there and a water park also inside there that gets really packed out in summertime. This was a Mexican restaurant. This is a gigantic mural that they have on the wall outside on the restaurant. I really loved how this pulls in this great detail. I added some black point, some contrast to this. And this was just some water flowing from one bucket to another. They also have a Hershey's ice cream store there in this complex. And this was part of those green chairs that had the scratch market earlier. This is some kind of restaurant or something that closed this time of year, so they had all these chairs leaned up against the rail here. I thought that was kind of a neat shot. And this was a close-up. I wanted to see how a close-up could do. Gives you that nice creamy background. Decent close-up on these screws or whatever these are here. This was some similar to like the wooden whiskey barrels. Now here I'm shooting through a window of a store. So there's a little bit of dirt and stuff because that was on the glass. So I added a little bit of contrast, brought the details out good. And this is one of their event centers. Now, this dirt that you see here, this was all on the glass of this window. This is some kind of big decal here at this daiquiri type of restaurant. Now we're at a different location. This was a tennis court. I thought this would be kind of a neat place to show some wide shots. And here I zoomed into the center area where the focus point is, so you could see how the background blur leads up to the center, gets sharp, and then tapers off way into the background to give you that nice creamy background look. And here I'm focused on the fence, of course, and you could see the creamy background blur behind it. And this was another great example, nice and sharp, focused on this, I'm not sure what this is, some kind of pumping station or something that you would turn this, and there's a building in the background. This is our farmers and fishermen's market where you can go buy different produce on certain days of the week. And here I'm holding the camera straight up. This is straight above me inside the farmers market area. This is some of the shops on the outer edges of the market. You can go buy shrimp here and so on. There's actually some restaurants coming up next, and they actually have a meat grocery store here where you can buy all kinds of things. And here's Moe's Original Barbecue. This is one of my favorite barbecue places in town, kind of a rustic look. They had this old bike out front, so I went over and shot that. Great examples of what you can expect from this lens. And here's some green leafy plant with these red berries. Once again, over to the right, you can see how good the background bokeh looks. Now, this is another day, and this is at nighttime, or not all the way going into the night, just going into the darkness. A couple of different stores shooting into their windows. And here I'm at ISO 1250 at f1.7. This is a place in Orange Beach, Alabama, and they've got this large Ferris wheel. Once again, ISO 1250, shutter speed at 1/500th of a second, f1.7. Fairly clean image for what it is. I didn't even run any noise reduction on this at all. And here we stopped for a beer afterwards, and this is ISO 4000, and I'm at a 30th of a second. And I went into this restaurant, and this is just shooting into one of their displays where they have different beer for sale. ISO 2000 there, and they had a band getting ready to play out back, some lighting up in their trees. This was ISO 1600, no noise reduction needed at this level with the A6700 camera. Once again, ISO 1600 in the outer bar area. And this is a completely another day, another town. We're actually in Mississippi here in front of a restaurant and just walking around a little bit, shooting some things in this downtown area. This was another restaurant. Looks like a pizzeria of some sort. We didn't eat there. We ate at actually this place here called Murky Waters. It was a barbecue place. It was actually very good. That's their sign out front. And here I just shot the edge of this stop sign so you can once again see the background bokeh behind it. And here we are at 5.6 f-stop at a shutter speed of 3000. Just a little city scene. This was right around the corner of the barbecue place, just walking around. A couple more shots over there, walking around. And they had this fishbone alley. This looks like it would be a really busy happening place at night. They had all these lights going from side to side and colorful things in there. I'm told that they bring out bar areas and you can walk through there and party and everybody has a good time. But we were there during the day, so that's where I got. Now we're down by the beach in Gulf Shores, Alabama. This is a sign at one of the beach access areas. It's just kind of a fun sign pointing different directions. No skateboards or bike beyond this point. They don't want you riding that down on the beach. See that background blur behind it? I shot this close up again so you could see some background bokeh. See how sharp the lens produces on metallic type smooth objects. Does a very good job. And here's some wider shots. You can see how some of that vignetting is coming in. And what I'm noticing too is when I add a little bit more contrast, if you look at the left side of the screen, even the right side of the screen, not only does the vignetting come in at the corners, but it's coming in about an inch or so, inch and a half or so into the whole left side of the screen. And I start noticing that quite a bit. Here I'm getting down really low. I'm shooting just sitting down on the ground here. It's a fun place to shoot at. And here's a walkway going over the road here. And this area here, this is the Gulf State Park in Gulf Shores, Alabama. This is where we shoot a lot of our family beach portraits that we do as part of our photography business. This is the off season, so there's hardly anybody there. But in summertime, this whole entire parking lot is completely packed. Now we're up in that walkway shooting. I always like shooting this shot here because I think this is so cool. Kind of like a tunnel vision, but wide open. You can see to show the quality that you can get from this lens, nice and sharp. And this was just some tire tracks down on the ground. And here we are. I just walked out onto the beach. You can see not many people out there right now. Summertime, this would be completely packed. But I'm still getting a little bit of this weird vignetting or darkening of the left side of the screen. And I noticed that quite a bit. These are the lifeguard stands. They actually pull them off the beach in the off season. They are just sitting out in the parking lot. Kind of a neat photo. Now we're moving by some boat docks. So I zoomed in on this fire hydrant area so you can see once again the background bokeh that you can get. And now we're going to shoot some boats. Kind of a bright day. So this is at f3.5 at 4,000ths of a second. And here's a rope on a post to show the background bokeh again. Maybe I'm showing that too much. Here's a nice wide shot of a big boat. And here's part of the docks going way out. And another angle of the docks with some buildings in the background. I'm actually focused on the tall building in the background area. Some more boats here. Nice orange life raft. Blue skies. You can see a little bit of that vignetting in the corners. If I don't crop in, you can see quite a bit more of the vignetting, but I generally crop in a lot. Now this, I got down on the ground just to shoot this once again to show how the further the way you are from things on the background, the more they get that nice creamy bokeh blur. And you got your in focus item in focus, nice and sharp. I put the focus point over to the left. Actually, I'm using the button focus where I focus on the item and recompose. And as long as I'm holding the back button, it keeps my focus point on my subject. Somebody had just finished eating dinner at this restaurant. I'm actually focused on the ketchup container in the center of the table there. Now here, this was an underground parking garage, so I'm at ISO 1250 at f1.7. Camera and lens did a great job here. Another boat going on. There's lots of boat here because we're in a boat marina area. This is a building here down at the bottom to the left of the building. Bottom part is a place called Steamers. We like to go there and eat shrimp dinners a lot. They got shrimp, all kinds of clam chowders and stuff like that, fish. And it's inside this place here called the Sen Rock Clay Marina. And they also have other restaurants in there. Actually, many years ago, we used to rent a store there for our photography business, where people could come look at their images after a shoot. We should display them on a large wall. And they have this big fish out front, big metal fish. And this was one of the steps leading up to the one upstairs area. So you can see you get a lot of nice straight lines. No problems there with this lens. There was a guitar player just getting ready to set up and play some music outdoors here. So I zoomed in on the head of her guitar to show, once again, the nice background bokeh that you can get when you get in close with this type of lens. And there was the bar shot with the wider angle. Well, it's not wider angle. It's still the same lens, just further back to show the detail that you can get with this lens on a camera like the Sony a6700. And this was a restaurant also in the same complex, but I still see this darkening on the left side of my screen a little bit more. There even is some on the right too that you don't see as you get towards the center of the screen. And this was one of their signs out front. Looks like they have blackened or grilled salmon with mushrooms and some green beans, red snapper. Now here's another diner that was down the road. And here I can really see a lot of that darkness coming in from the left side of the screen that I honestly don't understand why I'm getting that, but I am. I don't have any real explanation for that other than to say that it's there when shooting with this lens. You can still see a little bit of it over there. There are some darker skies over there, but the whole side of the building, like in these two shots, gets darker looking. And here I'm stopped at another place down the road. This is a very colorful image. Once again, you can see the nice bokeh in the background. And this was another barbecue place, actually, right across the street from the beach. And a lot of people put their stickers on this glass window, so I shot this. I thought that was kind of a neat shot to show different things. They had some flags hanging out front. We're on the Alabama coast, so of course you're going to see things to do with Alabama. That's one of the resort hotels right behind us. This is more little signs over at the barbecue place. And here's some of the hotels, condos. It's a hotel in the center. It's a condo complex on the right. And I think that is another large condo that they're still building over there on the right. So that's how the lens can shoot some tall buildings and how it deals with it. And this was inside the barbecue place here, ISO 800. And now we're back to the beginning. So that was it. Those were the images that I'm showing you as a sample over multiple days, over a few weeks. I hope you enjoyed it. This gives you a good idea of what you can expect from this lens, at least when you're putting it on a Sony a6700 camera. And I'm editing everything in Apple's Photomator program. So for my final thoughts on this lens are, it's a no-brainer for this lens. The small size, the great price, it's a great all-around carry-around lens for your APS-C camera. So tell me, what do you think in the comments? And also, I've been getting a lot of views on a lot of my videos, but I'm not getting a lot of people subscribing. So please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be making a lot more content on cameras, lenses, and a lot of things. Even things with AI. Even this year, we've used AI in our photography business. Also more on cell phones and more. I've been a working photographer for close to 30 years now, And I've been using this gear on professional jobs. I've also been using AI in our photography business. So I'm highly qualified to provide quality information. So anyways, I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time.